All right, everyone, a bunch of communists have decided to burn down the city of Kenosha, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's hard to tell when it's Wisconsin. You've got Milwaukee, and you've got all sorts of other cheese-sounding names, mostly cow-related. I'm half joking. What happened is that there was a justified shooting of a man named Jacob Blake in Kenosha the other night. And unfortunately, communists have decided, well, a black man was shot in the back, in this case, which by the way, you won't miss that part if you watch the legacy media, because that's the tagline of all of their stories. It is far more complex than that, and I will get into that. But he got shot by police, I think actually survived and has gone through surgery for the bullet wounds. And so there's a bunch of rioting going on, and so the people there in Kenosha, the communists, I mean, instead of, deciding to protest, decry police brutality, which again I'll get into, this isn't an instance of police brutality, they decided to fire up a car dealership and burn a bunch of automobiles. And it's funny because there's a now famous still where you've got this placard in front of a Unitarian church, and the Unitarians are very liberal, by the way. They're like the socialists of kind of Christianity, you could loosely label it. And the placard says Black Lives Matter, and there's a bunch of burning cars right behind it because BLM mobs decided to torch them. And it's kind of surreal. Now, the governor, in a blatant disrespect of the police of Kenosha, decided to come out and say, well, I condemn this. Oh, this isn't the first time that a black man was shot by police. A bunch of fucking horse shit. There's a video, link in the description. This was absolutely a justified shooting. Now, take a look at the situation. Police responded to a domestic violence call. This individual has a lengthy rap sheet. They probably processed him beforehand, but let's assume that he didn't. Let's assume that these cops just showed up, they looked at the situation, and they decided to get out of the car and immediately act. This individual had police guns drawn on him for a goddamn fucking reason. Trust me, no goddamn cop in the country right now dares to draw his gun on a fucking black man, especially unless they are themselves black, unless they've got goddamn adequate reason. Because they've been told by cities and states alike that they're not going to be supported if they do that. They'll lose their job and they'll probably get sued. They might even get thrown in jail for the rest of their lives, whether it's regardless of whether it's justified or not. I'll tell you why this is justified. If I were the cop, I would have done the same thing. Here's why. If I take out my gun, and I'm assuming that there's some at least tangential reason for that, at a person, I've been called to a domestic violence complaint. People are hot under the collar. Maybe there's no punches being thrown or anything like that. Let's just assume everyone was as calm as you can be expected in such a call. I've got a dude there, a girl, she's saying, there's domestic violence going on, he was slapping me, he's yelling at me, what the fuck ever. And a dude refuses to obey my order. I'm like, I need to talk to you. And he turns his back and walks towards his vehicle. What the fuck am I supposed to think? I'm going to assume that he's going for a gun or a bat or a knife. I'm not going to let him goddamn do it. I would have shot him myself too. And any reasonable individual would have done the same goddamn thing in these officers' position. This doesn't even have a relation to the George Floyd killing. At least there, it looked like the officers involved had killed him for no reason. Well, he's not doing anything wrong. He's just there on the ground and they asphyxiated him. Now, we know that's not true, but at least at the outset, it looked like there was some justification in people's ire. Here, there's none. And then they go off. And people decide to burn a bunch of fucking cars over a dude who was justifiably shot because he was goddamn ignoring the officers. I have no doubt, everyone, in the next couple of days, we're going to find out just how justifiable this is. Either they already ran the plates and they said, this dude's wanted, or something like that. Or they're going to find a toxicology report. Oh, he was on crack at the time. He was smoking a hell of a lot of weed. He's got like 10 times Bob Marley's blood content or something. They're going to find drugs in his system. They're going to find that there was a reason. Because people, generally speaking, they don't do this sort of thing unless there's a risk and reward that's involved with people, even if they're on drugs or they're criminals or whatever. This dude didn't try to get back into his vehicle while officers were goddamn holding their weapons, pointing them at him. He didn't do that for no reason. We're going to find he was on drugs, wanted for other charges, that there was something else going on. But nonetheless, BLM and Antifa, they don't fucking give a shit. And they'll run with these legacy media fucking propaganda bullshit reports. Look at the headlines right now. CNN, NBC, MSNBC, HuffPost, Salon, all of them. What do they say? Black man shot in back by cops. Oh, well, that's perfect. People are starting to lose interest in George Floyd now that we know he died of a massive fentanyl and crack overdose. People are starting to lose interest. They might stop rioting in the streets. What are we going to do? Oh, another police-involved shooting. This is great. Let's just misconstrue it completely. Let's tell people that it was just an aspect of a black man turned around and a racist white cop decided to fucking gun him down in the street in front of his kids, by the way. If I see someone, let's say that the cops even knew that these kids were in the car, which of course is not instantaneously something that we can know, wouldn't they think, well, he's either going for a gun or he's probably going to close that door and drive off at high speed with little kids in the backseat. Maybe we should do something about this. But if I'm a cop, you know what I'm trained to do? If somebody decides to do this, I'm not going to start a fist fight with them. I'm not going to try to fucking punch the dude into submission. The fuck are you talking about? He might whip out a knife. He might whip out a gun that he's got concealed on him because concealed carry, by the way, is a thing in the United States. He might start shooting. He might start hitting me with a baseball bat. Maybe he's got a shiv underneath the seat or something. I don't fucking know that. I'm going to blow him away. He's very, very lucky that he didn't apparently die, at least instantaneously. I think he's gone through surgery and he's now expected to survive. And the hope is, of course, the dude survives because I want him to go on trial. I want him to have to go and testify. I want him to have to go there and for the judge to read out, well, you were wanted for one thing, or you had a lengthy rap sheet. What the fuck were you doing? You turn your back on these cops. They're telling you to stand down. You completely ignore them like you're goddamn high as fuck on heroin or something, and you try to get back in your car. What the fuck are you doing? That's what I want. Unfortunately, at this point in these situations, when the legacy media makes something a major event, there will never be justice. A person will either get off who doesn't deserve it, or they will get crucified for something they don't deserve to get crucified for. CNN, MSNBC, NBC, and all of these others are absolutely goddamn culpable in this kind of fucking bullshit in the United States, and people are getting, thankfully, very tired of it, and they're tuning out. This shooting, as far as I can tell based on the evidence that I see, based on the story as far as we know, and the footage that I have available to actually review, this was a justified shooting. I love it so much when people on the left say, cops killed, and then they state the statistic, a couple hundred people a year or something, and they shoot a couple hundred more that survive. But they never tell you about the justifiable shootings that are involved. The proportion is enormous. It's something like 95% of them all. And in the handful of cases where it's not justified, it tends to be bullshit like the extremely odd case of Christopher Dorner. Do you remember that? What was it, 5-6 years ago? You remember when that black LAPD former cop decided to go crazy and he said, well, the LAPD is corrupt. I'm going to kill a bunch of cops. And he killed several of them and he was on the run. And the LAPD, true to form of course, decided to open fire on a bunch of unrelated vehicles and never, by the way, paid a goddamn red fucking cent in any civil case. Those are the people that I have sympathy for involved with police shootings. Those are the people I have sympathy for. I have sympathy for you if it was stray fire, if it was a misidentification, if it was a rogue cop who went goddamn psycho. Something like that. I have sympathy. I don't have sympathy for this dude. You should have goddamn fucking known better. And again, these are white cops shooting a black dude who had his back turned. Trust me, they had justification. They're not racist. They were being extremely cautious. These people, they probably took a knee before this dude, before this particular footage was recorded. They probably got on their knees and said, please, sir, we beg of you, please surrender. Please put your hands behind your backs. We don't want to get called racist and fired by our cuck city. That's probably what they did. And of course he said, fuck you, because that's what any reasonable person would do. And when they realized that he was reaching for a weapon, which and there's a good chance that he was, or at the very least trying to flee the goddamn scene despite the fact that they were openly questioning the fucker, they decided to act appropriately. Maybe they heard the kids in the back seat squealing and they said, oh shit, there's a bunch of kids in this car. He's about to drive off at 100 goddamn miles an hour. These kids are gonna fucking die if we don't do something. Shoot him! And so they did what they were fucking trained to do. They won't face a day in jail because it was absolutely justified. But you're never going to hear that from CNN. You're certainly not going to hear that from the breadliners. They're going to say, oh, it's another example of a racist man shooting a black man in the back. No, it's not. But that's exactly how they're going to cast it off as. Because they're goddamn fucking stupid and disingenuous. That's about all. Peace out.